There's a new me coming out, and I just have to live, and I wanna give. I'm completely positive. I think this time around I am gonna do it like you never knew it. Oh, I'll make it through. The time has come for me to break out of the shell. I have to shout that I am coming out. I'm coming out. I want the world to know.
Welcome to the show, Never Too Late Ever, where we focus on making the next chapter of your life. I said your life, the very best chapter ever. I am your host, Lorraine Hoving, and I am thrilled you are joining us today. This day could change your life. Open your heart, your ears, and listen. My goal, and Janine's goal, that's our guest today, would be that you would have some tools that you could take away today to implement in your life so that you can make your life just a little bit better by listening today. Janine, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. A pleasure to be here, Lorraine.
Yes, and Janine and I are good friends. She is a fellow Canadian, and so I didn't know if my audience knows, but I'm a Canadian, and I'm moving back to Vancouver Island at this time, and Janine's from Vancouver, so that's kind of exciting.
It is.
And let me tell you a little bit about Janine. Janine Brolly works with modern, successful women. So when I read this, I'm going, modern. I'm wondering if I'm a modern, successful.
You are.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you. That's what I needed. Worldwide, who feel burnt out, unfulfilled, and that something is missing in spite of their successes. She believes it's an epidemic, how so many successful women are just living. Janine has built a 7-figure business and helps women awaken to their burning desire in business and personal life. She is known for her intuitive ability to see and unveil blind spots in others. That's a great gift. She is a best-selling co-author, international speaker, facilitator, founder of the Inspires Women Business Network, which is going great guns, and founder of the Burning Desire Awakening. So welcome. I'm going to start with my first question I do this with most guests. I ask them what wakes them up on fire each morning to tackle the day. When you hear that alarm ring, what wakes you up excited?
Fantastic question. It's interesting because I think that, all my life I felt like I had this gnawing, this pull, something that I've always wanted to create in the world. And, there were days in the morning where I would be like, busting a gut to get up in the morning. There are other days that I'll be honest, I just wasn't, that sort of tired, depleted, unfulfilled feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that unfulfilled feeling is what really drove me to go, okay, how can I get up in the morning and really want to jump out and, be on fire for the day? Because through my journey, I've realized that there's a lot of women out there, men and women, but more prevalent amongst women who aren't jumping out of bed in the morning. They're not on fire. They're not connected to their legacy, what's really burning inside of them.
Yeah. That's good. So today you've entitled our talk together, When Success is Not Enough. It's time we stop just living, and we all know what she means when she says just living. It's that mediocre, lukewarm feeling when we get out of bed, and how to awaken our burning desire. So what do you mean by success is not enough, and what do you mean by just living, Janine?
Yeah, great place to start. And so, like I said, through my personal experience, waking up in the morning, sometimes being, this feeling like, yes, my life is on fire, and other times, just living. I've worked with so many women in different capacities not just my own journey, but other women in different capacities, from being a health professional, mentoring entrepreneurs, working in corporate, facilitating leadership events, speaking, and my favorite, mindfulness training, which is really encompasses everything. But I saw a common theme when working with all these women, and it was, yes, they had some level of outer success as society would deem successful, but they felt like something was missing inside them. It was a sense of like, there has to be more. And that's what I call, just living. And so it really is, women are, I feel we're looking outside ourselves. So we're overriding that inner compass, basing our lives on how society measures us. Again, this is men and women, but more prevalent for sure amongst women. And, we juggle multiple roles. We're looking after other people, and we default on autopilot. And so we're rarely questioning, are we really living what we're here? Are we really living our calling, our burning desire, what we're here to do and be and create? And so when we're not doing that, we're settling, and like I say, it's like we're hiding in bunkers and we're playing it safe and undervaluing ourselves.
Yeah. Well, why do you think this is happening? Because it's not necessarily you could make all the money in the world and still be just living. Because a lot of people think, well, if I just am successful,
totally.
and I make. So why has this happened? Why such a common issue, especially with women?
Well, I think that I believe there's two sort of overarching issues. One is, I call it the universal hum. And so if you think about it, when we were born into this world, whether it was us at this generation or our mother's generation or our mother's mother's generation or our mother's mother's mother, and just keep going back in time, we've never known a world that women have been equal. We've been born into inequality, and so we come by it naturally. So it's this sense of women are less than. I'm not saying I'm blaming. It's just having the awareness that we have this universal and energetic belief going on. And the other,
I would agree. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so it's just about becoming aware of it, because as soon as, you hear me say this all the time, is if you don't have the awareness, how do you shift it, right? And I think sometimes we skip that first step. And I think the second reason why this is a common issue is that we bought into the facade, the facade of caring what we look like and social media and our job and our careers, our bodies, and, we're just bombarded with it. So unless you have that awareness, how do you, really overcome that, right?
Right. So it starts with becoming aware. Now, this sounds like kind of a hot topic for you, and why is this topic important to you?
Well, that's a loaded question. It's definitely very personal. It's very near and dear to my heart.
So is there a story behind Janine?
Yeah. So for me, there was two life-defining moments, and I'll start with the more recent one, and that is 2011. I went through a relationship breakup, and it was harder than any other. One of the hardest things I've gone through. I physically felt like my heart broke, and there was an epiphany moment. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, what is this common theme? If this is happening to me all, repetitively, what is this saying? And what was happening was I was taking care of other people's needs. I wasn't making my own self a priority. I always say it's good to give, but not giving up at the cost of yourself. So giving of yourself is good, but not giving up yourself. And I was giving away my energy. I was proving that I was worthy, that I was lovable, and I was depleted. And so I'm kind of looking at, okay, what's the common denominator? I was a common denominator, right? And so we're so often, ready to point the fingers, but I, pointed the fingers back at me. So I had created a lot of success by proving myself and proving my energy. And so I had the success, but I hit a point in my life where I'm like, enough. And it was an epiphany moment. And I don't know if you can relate, but it was like a moment in my time where I'm like, this is going to change the trajectory of my life, because I made a declaration and I knew that I was going to do things a different way. And it totally set me on a different, And I feel like, Lorraine,
I was maybe the breakup is what woke you up, right?
It woke me up. And, I feel like that's my story, but I've worked with so many women. They may have a different story, but there's a common underlying theme, beliefs, patterns, and it's all around not fully valuing ourselves. And so if I can go way back in time, right when I was born, I can look at where this comes, not to dwell on this, but it just gives you that understanding. It's like, okay, so again, when you have that awareness, you can shift it. So I was born into this world. My birth mother held me for 6 days, 6 nights. She wasn't sure if she was going to keep me or not. And the 6th day came, and she gave me up for adoption. Now, today, I see the perfection and the beauty in that. It's quite a, I'm not going to go into the deeper story here, but, there was so much perfection in it now because I see what I've come to learn. But what what happened was through my life, I learned to get my validation, my love, my worth, by being a good girl, doing all the right things and getting acronyms behind my names and having success. So, again, I was showing up according to what society or my parents or what I believed was the way to do it, and trying to get fulfilled from the outside.
And you know what? And it almost sounds like a lot of work. You're working at it. You're trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pushing and pulling rather than just allowing and being and knowing, recognizing the truth that I'm already whole and perfect and pure love, right? We all are, but we've forgotten the truth of who we are. We've forgotten that.
So how did you? So that's where it started in 2011, where you had this kind of aha moment. And how do you continue to validate yourself and on a daily basis? Because we will still always have moments where we feel that. So what disciplines or what have you put in place in your life from 2011 that have made a difference now to feeling like you're living and that you are excited and you've got a legacy to leave and all of that? What were the disciplines that you put in your life?
Well, I think the first thing was, again, going back to awareness, but having that awareness that I have bought into a facade, right? Like, I think that there's a tipping point where we're not aware, and then we become aware. And then when we become aware, are we willing to be that? And so I've jumped the fence back and forth. I'm willing to, I'm not being willing to. And any listeners might go, well, what's the big deal? Just, be that. But when you're talking about exposing yourself and being fully seen for all that you are, that's going against the grain. That's rocking the boat. That might be, leaving your family to go to Cuba, which I did because I needed to replenish myself, right? And some listeners could be thinking, oh my God, I could never do that, right? So it's about really owning all that you are and, hearing those doubts and fears, like, when you think about, oh, well, I'm going to do this or that or start a new business or take time for myself. And it's like, well, what will people think, right? So it's looking at your doubts, your fears, your thoughts, and actually examining them. Like, you're looking at them and go, well, is that really true? Like, if I really stay late and please my boss, if I really do all these things that society wants, how fulfilling really is that? So when you have that awareness, you look at it, you go, oh my God, that's bullshit, right? Like, oops, we got to probably beep that out. But we realize the lies we tell ourselves, right? So, the way that I've turned this around, or I've worked with other people to turn that around, is be a truth teller. Get honest with yourself like you've never told yourself before, how you're really showing up. And then, when you're examining these areas of your life, I call them badges of honor. Like we wear them like badges of honor, but they're not badges. Like, I'm not worthy, or I'm not good enough, or what will people think, or it's not okay to be me. It's like slowly taking those badges of honor off, right? And then becoming more of who you are. And I think the biggest thing in terms of action, which is kind of inaction, but is to spend quiet time. We're so fearful about being quiet sometimes and being still and contemplating, journaling. Maybe you do or don't meditate, but having that stillness. We're so frightened to just be still with ourselves sometimes. But journaling and thinking, contemplating things like what really matters, what really matters, what's calling me, and and start moving towards that, and being patient, because we all have the answers in ourselves. We have it. So when you start getting those answers, go do that, right? So for me, I would go do that, but then sometimes I wouldn't, right? I'd come out and then like, ooh, that's a bit scary. But it's like,